Hello and welcome to the latest episode in our series of Antser Subject Matter Expert Talks.
When after the films and after the training, or at some point during the training, we obviously talk about strategies. And then there's very usually, I would say almost always, there's talk about, yes, but how can I possibly be doing this with a young person, this regulating stuff, when I've got 20, 25, 30 other children in the classroom. And so, of course, we talk about how you can weave in regulation and relation into your classroom practice. And you can become a practitioner in the classroom who is attending to all of your children's needs to regulate, because it's not just our children in care or who've had a social worker that may be anxious. You may have children that are anxious for other reasons, or stuff's going on that is spiking their anxiety that you have no idea about. And so actually to have those brain breaks, wriggle breaks, walking around the playground, having a run, or to have those conversations with your TA or you where you're saying, I can see this, you're not looking very happy today. Is everything okay? Or even not asking, is everything okay? But just so that they know that there's a colleague in school, there's a staff in school, a teacher or a teaching assistant who they can go to and get them. And as you say, because the films are so stirring, our constant message throughout our training is around looking at the adults looking after themselves. And our training is called Recovery Through Relationships. It's not just relationships child to adult, it's adult to adult as well, and child to child. And we very much stress that you will need to go away and reflect, and you will need to develop within your school some way that you can offload with each other. So I worked with a school a few years ago where they had a couple of young people come into care, fresh into the school, very, very challenging. And at the end of almost every day, the teacher and TA in both of the classes where the children were would grab a cup of tea and sit in one of the classrooms and simply offload what the day's been like. And that alone, talking about it and how they were feeling about it, was enough to help them just pick themselves up and go on again. And it's that recognition that being vulnerable and saying, I didn't know what to do, is fine. Because, as teachers, we want to do our best, and we're always beating up ourselves about, oh gosh, my children need to be passing their phonics screening check, and I need to keep a grip on it all, and I've planned these great lessons and it's all going to pop. Actually, yeah, that is going to happen sometimes. And what do we do when that happens? And what do we do with our feelings? And if as adults we're not regulated, we can't then regulate our young people who need it. So that should be very integral to anybody using the headsets in training. They need to be giving that message to the staff that they're going to. You need to look after yourself, and you need to have a support mechanism in school as well. Yeah.
That's really key, isn't it? And that's again, like when we see the teacher who really, or the teaching staff who has that behaviourist approach, actually you can really focus, can't you, on what do we think she's experiencing here? And again, that can open up the conversation around actually it could be this for us. I mean, for us, we have really struggling post-COVID, we're exhausted. Just open up natural conversations where actually as a group, if you've got that support to just talk about what's barriers, what's difficult, and that's, like I say, the importance of self-care. So what's the next steps? Because you've done so much so far, but what's the next steps there?
Well, okay, so next steps are to continue to go into schools and settings with the headsets and deliver inset or staff meetings, and that would continue to be our offer. What has happened now is that in Cambridgeshire, the SEND service have, I guess, realised that throughout Cambridgeshire that there are different members of staff delivering trauma and attachment training, and that we're all pulling in the same direction. We all want the same thing, but that the headsets can actually facilitate this incredibly well. And so we have connected to us from the SEND service an educational psychologist who is working with us to develop the training so that members of the SEND team, so that's educational psychologists and SEND specialist teachers and whoever might be working with the school in a SEND capacity can also deliver the training with headsets. So if you imagine that you have say a large primary school, they don't necessarily have children in care in there at the moment, but they may have educational psychology support going on with some children. They may have children who have had a social worker, and they may have quite a lot going on in terms of EHCPs, and then they realise actually the school could really do with some trauma and attachment training because they're seeing those characteristics. Those colleagues in Cambridgeshire can then use the headsets to go and deliver this piece of training. That is very much in its infancy, and so we have had colleagues using the headset, training virtually with Antser, so in their home with the headset on, doing the training over Teams, so they're getting that initial training, and then they're going to be shadowing the virtual schools training, and we're going to run a train the trainer day. This is probably not going to happen until the new school year next year, so that everybody's really understanding what are those key messages. So what are the key films to use for different phases, school phases, which ones we would recommend that you always use and which ones you could swap in and out maybe. And what is it that we're saying to schools that they need as a foundational understanding of trauma and attachment? And then when we talk about strategies, we're always talking about the 3 R's, which is regulate, relate, and then reason. And, you know, very much based on the work of Dan Hughes and Bruce Perry. Pace work, 3 R's, throwing in a little bit of polyvagal theory and that kind of thing. And again, as you've said, thinking about their behaviour strategy in school. So those people in the SEND service may be involved for a whole year with the school, and this may be part of what they do with them. And equally part of what they do with them is to sort of maybe challenge their somewhat behaviourist behaviour policy, if that's what they think is going on in the school. Gently, of course, and carefully, but using the training like this and using the headsets actually just open up that conversation very much. Yeah.
And it is, like you say, that gentle conversation, because everybody who's being trained can take a step back and self-reflect, and it's not there to cause confrontation, it's there to cause conversation and reflection, isn't it? Which is massive.
Yeah, there is another thing that we're doing too, actually, which is new this year. So we have done a 2-day more in-depth trauma and attachment training with a group of schools as a pilot. So a large primary school, 2 special schools, and the rest are secondary settings. So there's a primary school and there's a multi-academy trust. So it's all of the schools in the multi-academy trust. And we had to do it online because of COVID, but we used the films as part of the training. And then those schools have, as the second day of training is around what in-school project are you going to do to embed these messages. So practitioners in school have gone away and thought of a project. So one college in particular have a project that they're going to be doing where they're engaging their young people in care in a weekly reflective circle sort of idea with a psychologist. And we are thinking of enabling them to use the headsets to understand their brain. So understanding the adolescent brain may be one of the things that we could do as part of that. Yeah, so
need a part 2 to hear how that goes.
you certainly do. Yeah, definitely. So by the autumn term by next academic year autumn term, we will be able to see the outcome of these projects and the outcome quite possibly of young people using the headsets themselves. Yeah.
Amazing. Just
exciting, isn't it?
Hear how they get on, and how it helps them to support understanding their brain, which is
absolutely
some of the feedback we've had so far from young people about that. It's been just how it's allowed them to kind of make that connections, and you know how we have practitioners telling us and we all think we understand what we're saying, but to other people it may not, or young people it may not come across in the headsets. It's been really enlightening and empowering for them, so be amazed to get that.
I mean, the thing is, we will go into a college and these 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, they'll put the headsets on and they'll be away, won't they? because
Yeah,
they know how to use them already.
They all know exactly how to use them.
Yeah.
But I think just from what you've said today, Joe, it's like in your virtual school, how you're using, and there's that real clear plan, it's an objective of how we're using. This is what we're going to be doing. This is what our plan is, and
Yeah.
we do it as a team and in a
Mm.
very supportive, empowering way.
Yeah.
That is bringing reflection, it's bringing change, positive change for our children and young people, and it's just been amazing to hear how you're doing it, and kind of your journey as well, just how it's evolved and it continues to evolve, and that's what it happens when we within our partners is you might start with an idea here and that works really well, but then it can evolve into different avenues, can't it? So we will need to book in part 2 in winter time to hear how you get on and hear
that would be really exciting, actually. See
Well,
what's worked and what's changed. Yeah.
definitely. So thank you, Joe, so much for
Oh,
today.
thank you.